Sefo was one of those K-1 fighters who were just one step away from becoming the World Grand Prix champion and adding their name to the company of the best. But losing to Ernesto Hoost in the final, I think no one was ashamed at that time. Ray fought all his life with the best K-1 fighters and has victories over many tops, including Aerts and Bernardo. But specifically this fight ended with decisions that don't fit a little bit into the concept of today's review. Today there will be only massacre, blood and Samoan knockouts, which Ray knew perfectly how to arrange. Sefo was born in a real boxing family. His grandfather and father were boxers, but Ray started with Wing Chun because after watching a movie with Bruce Lee he wanted to be like him. Later he switched to boxing and Muay Thai, where he managed to become the world champion in different versions 6 times. 1996 and Ray's fight with Andre Manat, a Dutch kickboxer who that evening experienced all the speed and technique of Samoan fantasista. Andre in each round flew into knockdowns of various levels of severity, but each time he got up to fly away again. That evening, Ray not only took one of his championship belts, but also attracted the attention of K-1 scouts, who noticed the young and bright Samoan and invited him to try his hand at a higher level. So Ray himself called this fight one of the most important and turning points in his career. Guys from K-1 didn't put pokes under Sefo to give him a go and allow him to win a couple of easy victories. The first fight and immediately Ernesto Hoost, who stopped Ray with his terrible low kicks and issued a knockout in round 4. The fight was lost, but the audience and the organizers liked how Sefo showed himself. He didn't shy away and wasn't afraid of a more fearsome opponent, for which he received his part of respect. After losing to Mr. Perfect, Ray had one victory, and in 1997 he got a young but already dangerous cyborg as a rival. And usually, where Jerome appeared, there was some kind of emergency with serious injuries, and that evening there was also a victim.
96年ですね、10月にホースト選手 KO してますんで、
Lebana immediately with a gong poured on Ray with a desire to inflict body pain to the Samoan and finish everything quickly. He presses Sefo to the ropes and knocks down with a left hook. It seemed that now Jerome would add a little more and the battle would be over. Apparently he wanted to, but the oncoming cross of Sefo interfered his plans, which flew into Lebana's chin and stopped Jerome's thought ahead of schedule. So Ray made a beautiful comeback and broke the cyborg's jaw in 4 places. This was the first finish for Lebana with a power outage. Before that, only Aerts stopped him on the body. And as usual, the first time is the most memorable. Now, immediately to 1999, and race fight with an average guy Jim Mullen, whom the Japanese public greeted as a national hero. Either we don't know something about him, or they just treated absolutely everyone who stepped into the ring to entertain them so respectfully, regardless of statuses and regalia. Jim went to fight in such a suit as if he had completely forgotten it at home and jumped into the ring after the beach. It was pretty funny looking at him in those shorts. At first he tried to carve Sefo's leg with low kicks, but with every minute the Samoan's advantage became more and more obvious, and more blows flew in. Jim wasn't discouraged, and he decided, if it's impossible to beat Ray, then at least I will hook the referee. But this not very young Japanese turned out to be not so simple and easily dodged Jim's back fist, as if he does these things every day. In the second round, Sefo brought his right cross to Jim's head and ended the fight. At first it seemed to me that after the finish he embraced the referee, whom Mullen almost chopped, but it was just a guy from his corner. A beautiful victory of the class from Sefo and another confident finish of the Beach Boy. After beating Jim, Ray got the opportunity to test his power at the K-1 World Tournament, but for this he had to pass the 21-year-old Moroccan Samir Ben Azouz, nicknamed the Jet, who had 64 fights and he won 59 of them. Sefo immediately decided to play on the nerves of Moroccan and while teasing knocked him down. And then, after a beautiful counterattack, he dropped him for the second time, so it smelled like a fast and beautiful finish. Sefo piled hard on the Moroccan and clearly surpassed him in striking technique. So after the third knockdown, the referee stopped the fight and Ray has got an early victory, thereby becoming a member of the World Grand Prix. But at the very first stage he lost to Sam Greco by decision and was eliminated from the tournament. In August of 2000, Sefo took part in the Grand Prix in Yokohama, then began his short but bright confrontation with Cyril Abidi, a Frenchman nicknamed the Marcel Bad Boy. At the first stage, Ray quickly nailed the German Frank Otto, who was stopped in 2.5 minutes, and then in the semi-finals he met with Cyril, who by the way passed Peter Aerts ahead of time, while for the second time in a row. So this guy from Marcel left on Sefo in the courage and with the desire to continue an early banquet. Gong sounded and the fighters immediately started to chop to death in the center of the ring, as if someone was hurrying them and it was necessary to knock out the opponent quickly. Cyril pins Ray to the ropes and breaks a long-lasting combo, which only makes Sefo smile, and most of the Frenchman's blows fly towards the Samoan's defense. At the end of the round, Sefo decided to play on Cyril's nerves. He lowered his hands and dodged blows with a smile on his face, and also provided the Frenchman father's butt kick. The first round ended there. The second round turned out to be just as tense and uncompromising, and in the end Ray was close to the finish line. He shook the Frenchman a little with one of the accurate hits, but Cyril survived the attack, and then he himself arranged survival courses for the Samoan, at the same time very serious ones, which Ray couldn't cope with during the break. He couldn't reach the third round and the battle was lost, although if it took place it's not clear how it all would have ended. So the first episode of this opposition remained for Abidi and was continued at the World Tournament after only 4 months.
To the fans, I'm really sorry. I will be back. It's a must revenge match and I will be back. That's a promise.
Both fighters qualified for the World Grand Prix, and in order to come together in revenge they had to go through the first round. Cyril has already passed Aerts according to the classics, while this time he made it with a defeat. He lost the fight by decision, but due to Peter's injury he made it to the semi-finals. Well, Sefo went on the Japanese kickboxer Musashi, to whom he was simply merciless. The second minute of the round and the Japanese was stopped. In the future they will fight 2 more times, and this trilogy will end in favor of Musashi. He twice revenged this knockout, although both times with decision. So in the semi-finals, Ray went out to his old friend Cyril, and this fight began even more aggressively than the first one. When Sefo came out of the exchange with his hands down, the audience simply burst into applause. They were very impressed by such a playful behavior of the Samoan, which has already become his business card. Just listen to what begins in the hall when Ray strikes Abidi and makes the first knockdown. Another long-lasting exchange in which Sefo turns out to be better and harder. He finishes the Frenchman and again brings Japan to ecstasy. So this confrontation ended with a score of 1-1 and they didn't intersect anymore, although it would be interesting. They were 2 very short but really interesting fights. What happened in the final I already said at the very beginning of the video. Fight with Ernesto Hoost and loss of the tournament finals. Hoost became like the main boss for Sefo, for whom he never found the key. 3 fights and all 3 Ernesto won. So that evening Hoost became the champion, but judging by the mood and dances after the fight, Sefo wasn't very worried about this. Another interesting but not so equally confrontation Sefo got with black sniper Michael McDonald, a bright fighter from Canada who won the K-1 Grand Prix in America 3 times in his career. Their first battle took place long before K-1. It was 1995 and a fight for the world champion belt in New Zealand, and the quality of the video obviously is full HD. Sefo in this fight was 2 heads taller than his opponent and without any special problems smashed Michael with low kicks, combining them with heavy doubles. At the same time McDonald himself couldn't fight his distance and constantly missed. In the third round everything ended, and ended very sadly for Michael. He was knocked down twice and got up both times, But Ray that evening really didn't want to give the sniper the opportunity to lose by decision. McDonald was finished at the end of the round, and Ray won the world champion belt. But this wasn't the end of their confrontation. After 6 years already at the K-1 tournament, they crossed again. Of course Michael looked better in the rematch and started the fight more actively, but still, according to the usual classics, he was knocked down in the first minute of the fight. The sniper enthusiastically got involved in an exchange with the Samoan Terminator, and this was a disastrous decision for him. He missed the right cross from Sefo, who ended this two-leg confrontation in favour of Samoan. A quick and confident victory for Ray, and an equally quick and confident defeat for Michael. 2001 and the Osaka Grand Prix tournament, the fight between Ray and Adam Watt, the world Thai boxing champion, who after a 5-year break decided to return to the big sport and shake off the old days. Adam opposed Ray with fronts and didn't allow him to get close to him. He counted on a long-range battle, but his plans were very quickly disturbed. In the very first approachment, and Sefo attacked Adam with heavy blows, and especially pleasant to the eyes like this uppercut, which deprived Watt of his balance. For Adam, the return to the ring turned out to be very bright, but his role was secondary. That evening Sefo was shining, who by the way, while beating Adam, was injured and missed his opponent to the semi-finals, and he himself flew out of the tournament, although he won a crushing victory.
The fans out there, and I apologize that I can't continue, but I will promise you that I'll be back, and this year I'll definitely be the K-1 champion.
In 2002, after defeating Mike Bernardo, Ray signed up for the most outspoken mismatch. It was a fight with Brazilian fighter Julio Cesar Santana. And if I figured everything out correctly for this guy, this fight was the first in kickboxing, but he behaved quite confidently and even defiantly, and karma is a capricious thing. Brazilian starts the fight very confidently and bravely. The very first hit of Sefo shocked him slightly, but he didn't go of course, and as before wasn't going to leave the ring alive. This exchange wasn't long and ended with an expected lulling of the daring newbie. A beautiful finish from Sefo in 30 seconds, but Santana, after this trashing, couldn't come to himself for a very long time, but still left the ring on his own 2 feet, and most importantly, he became 1 knockout wiser. After the Brazilian, Ray took a fight with Gilbert Ival. Hurricane was already tired of merging fights on the ground, and he decided to change the situation and fight in K1, but the selection of an opponent was apparently done by not the most caring manager, who wasn't very worried about the health of the guy. At the same time, Ival decided to use his airtime very competently and came out with a dynamite sign. Apparently he couldn't promote his own business in any way, and then there was free advertising to a huge audience. Ival started the fight with low kicks, but he also fully had them. After a minute of the fight, it began to seem as if he was already tired, or simply became depressed, or simply realized that he shouldn't have signed up for this adventure, since Sefo's counterattacks flew very soundly and Ival felt every blow. At some point he freaked out and flew to destroy Ray, but it all ended quite funny. In the second round, Ival went into a knockdown and then put everything he had onto black when he went with last powers to chop, but it didn't work somehow. Although the exchange came out like real Hollywood, very entertaining, and that is a pity that Gilbert didn't have enough strength to get up and chop to death one more time. Instead, he was sad with an injured leg and wondered what is worse, to get lows from masters like Sefo or laying down 3 rounds under Josh Barnett and get punched to the head. In K1, the Hurricane wasn't noticed anymore, so make your own conclusions. In 2004, Ray got into a fight with Marvin Eastman, a K1 fighter from MMA and the former King of the Cage champion. Marvin's base was wrestling, and he had a K1 record of 1 win and 1 loss before this fight, as well as a nickname, the Beastman, which he was going to justify this beautifully named. The beginning of the fight, and Ray hooks Marvin in the exchange with the right hook, after which he barely stood on his feet. But Sefo drops his hands and starts teasing him, and then throws a high kick that hits Eastman right in the eye. The referee, after resisting, allows him to continue, and Ray, instead of touching the glove, bits off Marvin's head and the fight is stopped, although it's also controversial and somehow very quickly. Very strange fight and not quite typical behavior from Sefo, although it seems like this fight didn't have any negative prehistory. Marvin offered to continue after the gong and Sefo supported him, although for him it all ended in defeat again, and after that a massive Diaz-style match began, which was far from immediately calmed down. The same 2004 and Ray's fight with good old Gary Goodridge, who 3 months earlier flew away from another Samoan, Mighty Mo, and then having won 2 victories including over Cyril Abidi, went on Ray with thoughts to continue his winning streak. Gary decided not to delay and immediately went into exchange. He hit Sefo's block a couple of times and Ray hit Daddy in the jaw with a left hook and knocked down. Ray didn't let Gary go and gave him time to recover. He immediately ran into him with a series of punches and Daddy fell again. But this time he didn't stand up so confidently and therefore the referee stopped the fight. During his career, Gary already has missed for 3, so it was a completely justified decision and a stop. A very short and bright match which couldn't have ended in any other way except as ahead of time, and the victory remained with Ray. Another fighter with whom Sefo fought twice in his career was Ruslan Karayev, who, having become the world and European champion in kickboxing, got into K-1, and this was his first fight. And for the newcomer, he started very brightly and confidently, though he almost immediately missed the left hook from Ray and collapsed to the canvas. Ruslan got up after the knockdown, but Ray wasn't going to give the beginner a chance, and immediately repeated the trick with a knockdown, right now with a standing one. Although the referee generally thought it was time to finish, and then a towel flew into the ring and the question completely disappeared. So the debut turned out to be blurry and Karayev lost the fight in just 37 seconds. A year later they met again at the K-1 tournament in Seoul, and by that time Ruslan had won 5 victories and lost once, so having gained experience he hoped to take revenge from the Samoan. This time the same quick finish didn't work out, but even one round Karayev didn't stand. At the beginning Ruslan worked well and acted quite various, but all this was until the moment when Sefo managed to break through with his right hand. It was Karayev's brutal finish, who never picked up the key to defeating Ray. And this confrontation ended with a score of 2-0 in favor of Sefo. They didn't intersect in battles anymore. In 2006, Ray knocked out Manhoof in 40 seconds and later got a chance to become the K-1 champion, but for this he needed to beat the giant Sammy Schultz, who owned the belt. And besides, Ray could take revenge since 2 years earlier, Hightower had already beaten him by the decision of the judges, and it was a great opportunity to pay a debt. At the beginning of the round, Ray throws his bombs at the Hightower, but Schultz's armor copes with the Samoan cannons, and the giant, as if nothing had happened, continues to fight and shoot Ray with kicks from a distance. Sefo punches an accurate back fist and then entertains the audience a little by starting to defend himself with his shoulders from the giant's blows. The audience always liked these jokes, and they met the knockdown especially eagerly, in which Sefo sent Sammy right by the gong for a break. Schultz, at the very beginning of the second round, immediately paid back Ray for this fall and combated the Samoan. He met him with an accurate jab and Sefo was stopped. An excellent fight, but Ray was a little unlucky and didn't manage to beat the giant Schultz, who defended his belt. After this defeat, things went really bad for Ray and he lost 5 fights in a row, and couldn't qualify for the World Tournament in any way. These are far from all Sefo's fights in his career, and there were many more of them, but as you understand, you can't fit everything in one video, so I chose the best and most interesting ones in my opinion. Also, I deliberately missed one of his best fights with Hunt, as I talked about him in detail in the review on Mark, and who missed and wants to continue the Samoan agenda for himself. Links to Hunt and Mighty Moore will be in the description. There is also an idea to review David Tua, another dangerous Samoan puncher. What do you think about this? If you are interested in a review of Tua Man and my performance, write your thoughts in the comments. And of course, if you like this video and you want to help me to promote it, then leave comments, post likes and reposts. This is always the best reward for my efforts. Well, who is not signed up, subscribe and punch the bell to stay in touch and not to miss new episodes.